You're listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
I'm here to derail before we even get started. So before we hit record, I was watching the Texas Tech press conference and listening to Zach Kitley and Coach McGuire and Coach DeRuiter. And then on my suggested videos was the day that Cliff Kingsbury was introduced as the head coach. Now, this was 11 years ago, 2012. It was December, if I remember correctly. I know he was hired 12/12/12. I don't know if that was the day he was introduced. Actually, it says here it was the 14th. So just quickly, just so everybody knows how wrong we might be every time we think a thought, I just want to read a few of the comments from 11 years ago. I'm going to read some of these screen names because they're kind of rough. So from Sexy Boy 104.
Goodness.
2013, the year of Texas Tech, guns up. And then someone said, dude, just a few years ago, Tech was where A&M is now, 11-2. And that was with A&M in the same conference. So he meant that as like a compliment, you know. And then, let's see, what else did he say? You represent A&M well. Congrats on Texas Tech on stealing away Cliff. He's going to do great for you guys. Hopefully you will pass the horns up as well. Oh, man. Yeah, just here's my favorite one. So Michael from Austin. I think he's going to institute an interesting version of the air raid and put together a young recruiting machine who know how to stir things up. That's Texas Tech and West Texas for you. So just to show how wrong all of us can be at any given moment, I thought that would bring some levity into this conversation we're about to have. And how are you?
Love being wrong, Michael. Let me tell you how much I love it. I was thinking about this. This was a reaction to something I heard at the end of another podcast. They said they enjoyed it.
Enjoyed what?
It was cathartic.
Oh, our podcast?
No.
Oh.
Doing like going through recapping games like what we experienced on Saturday and talking through it. And I was like, I remember those days. And you know what? To be fair, Michael, it may have been because it was 2:30 as I was putting everything away. It may have been because I was able to talk through for 45 minutes before bed. I was like, it didn't keep me up.
Yeah,
any more than it did. Yeah.
I do think it helps. It was frustrating for me to listen because I usually don't, but I did go back and listen to part of that because I thought, man, I really felt like, yes, it was 1 a.m., but I think I talked even slower than I normally probably would have at 1 a.m., and I think I did. So sorry, everyone. I hope I didn't put y'all to sleep, but man, that was rough. But I do, when we're done with those, especially, the last two basically ended, and then I went to bed. And I slept pretty great and got up the next morning. I wasn't mad. I wasn't excited. The wind had been let out of the balloon a little bit of football season starting, but aside from that, there's still. I'm really looking forward to watching Arizona State and Texas State play on Thursday. So you can't keep me away from football, but
no, and that's the thing is like if it were easy, Michael, if I could turn it off, I probably wouldn't be a Texas Tech fan. Let's be honest.
Well, you could be a Notre Dame fan.
Oh, I wouldn't choose to do this to myself.
It was thrust upon you. You're performing a service.
I selected to come to Texas Tech, and I selected to start a podcast, and I continue to select to do this on a week-to-week basis, even though I mean, I don't want to air dirty laundry, but we haven't been paid ad revenue for 2 years now.
It's for the love of the
2.5
game,
years?
Spencer.
It's for the love of supporting a comedy club now in New Orleans.
Comedy club / coffee shop.
It used to be a podcast network.
Yeah, they at least still pay for the hosting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody is.
Yeah, I mean the service still allows me to upload files and it still distributes them out, but sure haven't seen that ad revenue check in a while.
We've got sorry, so from No Namath, we've got it's the Double T Trauma Bond.
Yeah, well.
And I think that's, we're not here to talk numbies or anything with you, but we had a lot of views on our ACU instant reaction, and I think that was because Misery loves company. But maybe everybody was in bed and or had too many adult beverages to take part in the instant reaction this last Sunday morning. So not quite as much on that one, but I kind of expected there to be more because of that same theory.
I'm gonna go back and
because I do that too. You know, even though we do this, I've been listening to a lot more lately too. I've been listening to Locked On and the Gauchos, and just kind of trying to vibe check. Like, is everyone feeling this way too? Are we all kind of on the same page here? And not just we podcasters or whatever, it's we fans. And I'm getting that same vibe in the Discord that the Gauchos run. A lot of us are kind of on the same page where it feels like, and we'll get to it. I mean, we could start now if you want, but it doesn't feel like the coaching staff though is on the same page as us, as anyone I've spoken with or interacted with personally.
It's interesting that they will make references to what fans are saying, and they'll say people are saying, or people are clamoring for this, and people want me to go for it on fourth down less often, or people hate the perimeter screens. And then they double down and say, well, actually, we're getting 7 yards a pop. If that were true, Mr. Kitley, then we'd be scoring more than 16 freaking points.
Well, I'm not even going to give them credit for 16. They only get credit for 12.
Sure.
And our starting quarterback only gets credit for 6. But anyway, continue.
The other, I mean, we're just going to jump into some mental gymnastics that we're having to process as we listen to post-game and pre-game press conferences. How much did you enjoy, Michael, I know we're in Lubbock, and I know what that means, but we got to play defense better. Defense is not why you lost. It's not why you lost. Yes, they gave up 30 points.
Well,
and you had a quarterback run for 200 yards.
Defense is why this team won games last year. Mm-hmm. Everyone, I think, recognized that. The points per game last year was the lowest it's been, and I forgot since the 11-win season, or was the season after?
2009. Yep.
I think it was the first time it was under 30 since then. I think everyone saw that and was really impressed by it and thought DeRuyter did an excellent job. And then I'm talking about myself here. I didn't adjust my expectations coming into this season and really examine how much roster turnover there was and how many young guys we've got out there and the growing pains that we're going to experience because of that. But watching that press conference and seeing what McGuire said after this game, I felt like we'd travel back in time. This was the stuff he should have said after the ACU game. But everything was fine after the ACU game. Gave up 51 points.
Because
gave up 700 yards.
Because we won the game, Michael. I told you he was going to hide behind. We're 1-0 though. We won the game. Let's not forget. It feels much better to win than it does to lose.
But they go on the road, and do way better on pass protection or allowing passing yards, but also allowed 300 yards on the ground, almost 200 to a quarterback who's sort of mobile. And yes, it was not a good performance, and they broke at the worst possible times after really bad fourth down calls and or turnovers. But it was just so visceral for him to launch into the defense the way he did and start spouting off how bad they are in these areas and how far down the list they are in total defense and 128th in the country. I heard that like 3 or 4 times.
And how Morton's number 4 in the country in passing yards and how awesome the offense is. Again, like, yards don't really matter if they're not leading to points.
It just blew my mind. It was like he left the film room immediately after the ACU game and then did this press conference. It was like his brain just, because he was saying stats from Washington State, but none of what he was saying made sense. He was talking about the offense that put up 52 points, which was fantastic and really looked good most of the game. Mm-hmm. How can you not when you're putting up that kind of, when you've got that kind of weaponry and you're putting up those kind of points and moving the ball like you were? It was just so bizarre to me. It felt like he had held that in after week 1 and he couldn't say it then. And so he waited until week 2 to say it.
He's defending Kittley in a way that like makes no sense. He was answering a question about the offense and then took that opportunity to throw the defense under the bus, which is what No Namath also asked. Like, I'd like to know why Joey was asked about the offensive performance. He immediately deflected and threw the defense under the bus. Yeah, I mean, it feels very much like he's not allowed to talk about, like, I mean, I don't know. Mentioned it Saturday night. They're going to reevaluate fourth down aggression and what that may look like going forward, or sorry, what that may mean going forward. He specifically referenced Lane Kiffin. Like he said, he gets aggressive after the 50. So like we may look at doing something like that, which would make more sense. But I think he said like we're like 3 and 9 or 3 for 9 on fourth down.
We're 2 for 8 because we're 25%, and
so
one of those was that insane
13, which probably to your credit, Michael, because you were being truthful there. Should have been incomplete and not a touchdown.
Didn't look like a touchdown to me, but yeah, a 4th for 13 bomb to our first game tight end that somehow was not ruled a incompletion.
Yeah, I mean, so it's probably more like 1 for 8.
We've got No Namath in here is calling this the horizontal raid.
The Screen Raiders.
That should have been our podcast name. The Screen Raiders.
I mean, I thought we were being a little facetious and kind of funny when we talked about 23 personnel, but how that's never a thing. Downfield offense, efficient passing. I don't know. There's lots of things to go to. Let's wrap up what Joey said. Excuse me, what McGuire said. We're not on a first name basis, and that bugs me. We were like Joey. He's like,
well, it's just such a first name. I don't think you're intentionally doing that. I've caught myself doing it too.
What it is, it's a little bit of Don Williams that's rubbing off on me. And I can't stand it when he does it. It's almost like condescending. Joey, when did Joseph hurt his knee? When was that in practice? Did he have surgery? Joey, can you tell me when he hurt? Shut up, dude. Shut up. Shut up. Do your freaking job and ask a really meaningful, significant question. Like, I don't know, time clock management when you need to burn 4 minutes and you take off 87 seconds. Or anything to do with fourth down and screwing over your team, letting the other team only have to drive 51 yards for a touchdown. Can you tell me how we're going to utilize Micah Hudson more often? Who the F cares, man?
He wrote an article about it today too. And I think it was because of Guns Up Nation's tweet. I'm saying them out loud because that was awful. The Where's Micah thing with the Waldo thing that they eventually deleted, but it stayed on Facebook and it got so much traction on Facebook because that's where a tweet like that or a post like that is going to get. Oh, well, yeah, that's right.
Since I'm watching and listening to every one of these press conferences, I may make like a tracker of all this stupid crap Don Williams asks about and all the meaningful topics that he just ignores and glosses over, doesn't even mention. But let's talk about Micah Hudson not getting to the game. I'm sorry. Is he supposed to take Josh Kelly off the field? I mean, is that where we're at? We're wanting to put Micah Hudson out there in place of Josh Kelly. You realize they play the same freaking position, right? Like you have to take one of them. You have to take one off to put Micah Hudson on. He doesn't play outside with Coy Aiken. It's not Caleb Douglas coming off. It's not Josh Kelly. He doesn't block like a tight end. Our tight ends don't even block like tight ends. And Kitley said, "Well, he's got a place in our empty package. Of all the games you could have seen an empty package run when you don't have your starting running back and you don't have the confidence to hand it off to guy number 2, that would have been it. Let's shelve the questions about Micah Hudson. I'm sure he's wonderful. I'm sure he's great. But him not playing has zero impact on the outcome of these games. You're giving them an excuse to deflect what actually matters. Asking about what actually matters. No, let's talk about the guys that aren't playing. He caught a pass. The first play of the game, he caught a pass. Why aren't you playing him more? All right.
We just can't be worried about where he's is the whole argument I get from that is, well, he's going to transfer. Okay. There's 100 reasons he might transfer. If we go 3-9, he might transfer. If we go 3-9 and fire all of our assistants, he might transfer. And if we go that 3-9 and he's had 700 yards and 6 touchdowns, guess what? He still might freaking transfer because he might see the writing on the wall. So I'm not worried about him getting playing time or not for the sake of what he's going to do. He's going to have to make that decision himself. He seems like a really intelligent kid. He's going to put a lot of thought into it. According to McGuire, he's bought in. Now, what McGuire says in front of a microphone, I take with the thinnest of grains of salt these days. But that one I'm going to buy. I'm just going to buy it. He's an illusionist. He's getting things, it was the defense's fault that Texas Tech got in the end zone twice. We're getting there. But with Micah Hudson, I would love for him to stay. I want him to stay. I want him to be a Red Raider forever. But that can't be the focus. The focus has to be, how the heck are you going to beat UNT at home? If it's playing him, okay, then let's do it. If it's playing Josh Kelly, all right, let's get him out there. I mean, that's got to be the focus. Let's win some football games. Let's not worry about what's going to happen to this really potentially fantastic 5-star receiver at the end of this season. Let's try to win some football games.
You mentioned Josh Kelly. Like these two guys are let's look at him for a second, okay? He was the leading receiver for Washington State, and he still left. It really doesn't even matter how a player is used if that has very little bearing on whether or not they're going to stay. It's up to them and whatever floats their boat in December. Like, you could force the offense 100% through Micah Hudson, and he could say in December, deuces.
Sure.
Like, it doesn't matter. And right now, you need to worry about winning games.
Yeah,
but let's continue to waste time in our limited press conferences that we're like, well, can we get an update on Micah Hudson? Is he gonna play more this weekend? The people need to know. No. Those people are freaking idiots. Well, if it's you, I'm sorry. You need to look yourself in the mirror and figure out what else is going wrong, because it's not Micah Hudson.
You're feisty. You're feisty tonight.
We haven't even gotten to the real nonsense.
One more thing. One more thing
It's
on
Dawn.
Hudson.
It's Dawn. It pisses me off, man.
One more thing on Hudson before we move on. No Namath brought this up, and I think he's right, or she. Sorry, don't want to assume, but the Hudson stuff probably stems from preseason hype and us being told he would be on the field. Well, we all need to look into the mirror a little bit because we get told a lot of things in the preseason, and a lot of it is crap.
Guess who came from? Yeah, like, well,
I think at some point, year 3, I mean, and I'm with you. I'm soul searching myself, but at some point, I think a lot of what these guys say, especially in the off season, we can just kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to his this week press conference, the UNT pregame stuff. Tell me if this gives you any bit of like confidence or hope that they'll play better this weekend, Michael. They're getting ready to play another coaching staff that they're familiar with. 3rd week in a row.
Well, but I mean, Morris hasn't been here since what, like 18?
Arbuckle's never been here.
Who's that?
Is that coordinator for
Garfield's
Washington State?
Garfield's dad?
Jared Castor hasn't been here since 2012. Or whatever the last year he was playing here.
So are you being facetious with facetious? Is it with the F?
Yeah. I'm just saying, like,
facetious.
he started.
Is this really a connection that's not a connection? Is that what you're getting at?
No, I'm just saying, like, he started off saying, like, one, how excited they are that we're playing another, coaching staff that we're familiar with, and we like these guys. Okay, great. Past 2 weeks, like, has that worked out? Has that been beneficial for you? Has that? He talked about the last time he faced Chandler Morse as a coach. Carved him up. Jordan McGuire was on the defensive staff defending a Chandler Morse offense.
You're cracking me up, man. You are in
Carved
rare form.
like a Thanksgiving turkey, brother.
Carved him up.
Did no? I mean, this is we all seen the Scurry injury update that he's out. Did confirm our worst fears. Not worst fears. Caleb Rogers is flipping over to left tackle. No, excuse me, left guard. Misspoke. Caleb Rogers going to left guard. Davion Carter right guard. He was asked about the procedures, Michael, and about pre-snap penalties.
Oof.
And he said they've been working on tempo, and that part of the tempo is to get up there and have the defense declare. So then your offense has a little bit more of a notion about what they're facing. But in getting up to the line and doing the hard clap, the simulated snap count, we're committing false start penalties. So where's the breakdown in, like, if that's your intention, why is nobody listening to that instruction? If you're telling them, we're going to get up to the line and we're going to simulate a clap, we're going to clap and we're going to see what the defense does. Why is the offensive line jumping? That line feels like just a ball-faced lie. They don't know what the hell's going on. Nobody does.
Because they did mention they're bringing in the referees this week.
If your intent is to get the defense to declare what they're doing, shouldn't you be telling the offense that's what you're doing? Or is that just me? I mean,
the tempo's so fast, it's not like they don't even have time to forget that they were just told that.
No.
It's not like, okay, we're gonna huddle up. All right, guys, I'm gonna try to draw them off sides here. Okay, and then
we're gonna go on 13.
You fart around for 10 seconds and oh crap,
you lose.
Sorry,
focus. Oh no,
my bad. Yeah. It's like, no, they do that, and like 3 seconds later, they're clapping or whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah, so they're gonna call in officials to call penalties in practice. Is that going to stop your offensive line from committing false start penalties? Got to get Micah Hudson more involved. We just talked about that.
Yeah, we're done with that.
Morton, number 4 in the country. This is a quote. So something McGuire said. Does it feel like Morton is the 4th best quarterback in the country right now?
I mean,
it wasn't after week 1.
Well, and he kicked ass in week 1. He was fantastic. We talked about this.
For
I think
stretches.
Right, but on our Tuesday show, we even talked about how we almost just took for granted how good he was, because you were just kind of, well, that's how he's supposed to be. And then we got to see the other side of that in Washington State, and I don't know if it was an injury thing. I don't know if I know he was forced out of the pocket. I also got this crazy stat from PFF or whatever showing how good our line was at pass blocking. And I don't know how accurate that is. That felt like a troll, but maybe it was better than we thought. But something wasn't right with Morton, whether it was above the shoulders or the shoulder itself, I don't know. But to go for the performance we saw at home versus what we saw in Pullman was a stark change.
How did the offensive coordinator rate that performance, Michael?
Well, he said it was
good football. It's good football. Room for improvement. Not grading out at 100, but definitely not an F. I'm sorry. Is 45 not an F in your book? Is a grade of a 45 not an F anymore? Like, are we? I don't know. I don't know what we're looking at. If a 45 isn't a failure, I mean, he threw for 300 yards. Cool. Is that the point of playing a football game? And see how many passing yards you can get?
Yeah, I know. That was a graphic that got shopped around this week too by the media team.
It's intentional. They're
tough.
They're spinning it, like they're pushing it down our throats. Like, guys, you're way too focused on losing the game.
Points.
Yards. You need to look at yards because we're number 4. We're number 4, guys. We're 4th best. The record. That's the defense's fault. Morton, no, number 4. All right, let's go back for a second. Going chronologically, let's get to DeRuyter. It feels like he's being very political, and like, yes, he acknowledges defense needs to be better. It's his, like, he's not like his team pitched a shutout and he still lost. He acknowledges deficiencies and problems. He said fundamentally not tracking the ball very well, getting spaced out too much, and then they're breaking down and allowing big plays, not communicating very well, and we're getting out of position because of that. A lot of that could be just the new combination of guys in the field. You're rotating in some linebackers this weekend. You had to switch out some safeties because of a targeting penalty. All right, I'm gonna do it. With the one question he asked, Chris Level asked, was about the targeting penalty, which was as textbook as it comes. He asked about, did you feel like it shouldn't have been targeting? Dude, my guy, I get you were on the field. That was textbook. It's unfortunate, and like Joey, excuse me, Coach McGuire answered it. Coach McGuire said, like, it's unfortunate because both guys lowered their head about the same time, but they're going to protect the ball carrier. He threw a shot in there about he's like, I don't know how you review and not call it on Aiken. But he said what happened against Lewis was he didn't say textbook. That's me saying, but like, I don't. Why are these the questions y'all are asking? Like, you walk through the doors of the football building, and you're like, I had these questions about the game, but I got distracted by new construction smell, and I'm huffing paint fumes or something. I'm gonna.
Well,
I
okay.
don't get it, man. I don't get it.
As far as targeting is concerned, they are removed for a half. Is that correct? So he'll play. Will he play against UNT? Will he start?
Yeah,
Because
that was the first half.
I know,
So
and
he's going to miss a full half.
Believe me,
the second half.
I'm not encouraging this, but if someone's going to get a targeting penalty, that's about the best possible time you can get one, is with 2 minutes left in the first half.
At the end of a half.
And I agree with you. It was clear as day. Targeting, there was nothing malicious about it that I thought of, but that's doesn't matter. You've got to take the rule for what it's worth, and you've got to enforce it the way it's written. So no issues. So I don't really know why that was brought up.
DeRuyter also mentioned they've got to figure out ways to get guys that are making plays on the practice field to make those same plays on the game field. Also mentioned this is going to be the third week in a row that we're seeing a similar concept. Doesn't give me a lot of hope because you've given up 88 points so far. They are now expecting a run game from the quarterback. Gee whiz.
They're expecting it.
Yeah, because
is that better or worse?
Well, maybe it means they'll be a little bit more prepared for it, because DeRuyter said they were not expecting it from a tier, which I can kind of get that. Week 1, he ran twice.
Right.
Had a
one
big
of them
play,
was it was against Portland State. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, he's obviously shifty and he can move, and I think we even mentioned that, but I wasn't expecting him to go off for 200.
But also,
Jiminy Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, so give credit where it's due. Like, they decided they were going to drop back and limit the passing game from Washington State. They saw what he did the week before and was super efficient and quick strike. And they said, you're not going to do that to us, which was refreshing after week 1. They dropped 7, 8 guys and contained it. Like, I think we talked about, like, had you read his passing stat line to us before the game, like, it sounds like you would have dominated this game. But it's not.
9 of 19, whatever it was. Yeah.
He was asked about the mental aspect of the sudden change, being the defense being thrust back out there after a failed 4th down conversion. He's like, I mean, we've got to be better at it, because we were much better years 1 and 2 than we are this year, but that's not something that's changed. We're still focused on it. We're still working on it. He said they train as if they're firemen. We got to go put the fire out. So it's not like it's new or uncommon for them. He did touch on the run game, said that they weren't expecting it much. Attacked it outside in, but didn't contain well. Still working out minor bugs, communicating to the players in the field. Did say they still have this sideline signals, so they have the combination of communication techniques, but still trying to work those bugs out. And then mentioned having to move Braylon Carroll outside to edge. So your defensive end on the 3-man front. Had an illness this summer where he dropped a lot of weight. He was already kind of quick for his size, so that kind of meshed well, dropping weight with his speed. So he's going to stay out there with the depth issues. So I'm all for. And then we get to Kittley, Michael. Let me get to Kittley. I think it ruffled a lot of feathers. Rustled some jimmies. When he sits down with that big grin and says, "How we doing?"
How
are we doing?
I read about this before I actually saw the video.
It was worse.
No, it was
watching it.
I'm gonna be possibly against the grain here. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was intentional. I thought it was like like an icebreaker. Let's knock back the tension a little bit. He was grinning as if like, hey, I understand, but yeah, I don't know. I got a kick out of it.
That's possible. I will say
really,
that's possible. However,
I really enjoyed it. It'd be like me asking you that after, just that. Well, I think I do that. I think that's pretty much what I do when we start an instant reaction after a bad game. So, how you doing, man? Just kind of see, you laughed right there. So
yeah,
anyway,
and
I didn't think it was as bad as what I had read before. I thought it was actually kind of appropriate.
And to be fair, I could just be primed, just be anti-Kittley at this point. What gets me, and like I can't just accept it as like icebreaker, is that the other things that he says that it's completely out of touch. Like maybe he really just doesn't know. I don't know. Did mention the UNT defense is going to be similar to what we saw in ACU. Definitely similar to what we're going to see against Iowa State. Their defensive coordinator was a cornerbacks coach for Iowa State, so he brought that system over. Was asked about the short throws. He said Morton's going to continue to fire it deep. It's like, well, hopefully they'll be better.
It's hopefully it's to set up play action.
Love to see some play action. Would love to see, like, okay, you're going to run that perimeter screen as many times as you do. How about you fake off of that? How about you pump fake that and then sneak out Dre McCray, who unexplicably you're having him use as a blocker in this scheme. He was asked about that, Michael. I don't know if it was it wasn't McGuire, it was Sean Dillon, I believe. Credit to him. That dude is doing the work of asking tough questions.
He did. He did.
One of my harshest criticisms was actually about him the previous week. To be fair, he asked much more directly this time. He asked about those plays where it's like, hey, was that like an RPO? Was it a miscommunication, or like was that a check or whatever? Like, why is McCray out there blocking? Or no, he asked, was that a specific to the scheme? Basically, it's like, is this on you or is this on Morton? Kittley says it was an RPO call and said that a couple of those Morton should have kept it, or sorry, should have handed it off to the running back. Tell me, Michael, does Kittley saying Morton should have handed the ball off answer the question whether or not McCray was supposed to be blocking for somebody else?
It answers a different question that was not asked.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. This 100% yes. He has it schemed up, your smallest wide receiver to be a lead blocker for somebody else. Maybe it's just me. Flip a responsibility out there so you're blocking for McCray. I don't know though. Maybe that's just me.
That's how that works well on those kickoff returns. He's got a few people in front of him. It helps out.
All right.
Are we about done with these press conferences?
Yes, but now I want to get into some of my thoughts on the game. I know we're 40 minutes in, and we haven't even left Washington State yet. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. We're getting there. We do have a preview to talk about. We'll get there. We'll go quick. Okay. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. Let's go to fourth down play call, which I think everybody's been focusing on. Average distance to go on third down for Texas Tech was 8.1 yards. So you weren't doing yourself a lot of favors leading up to fourth down. I don't know where that 7 yards per completion on those sideline passes were, Kittley, but it wasn't on first and second down. Defensively, Washington State had to go 6.3 yards, so a yard and a half better. Based off of the fourth down play calling, you gave Washington State 2 Well, sorry. You gave them one play touchdown drive. It unfortunately was followed up by a first play on your drive. You fumbled it. They returned it to 2. They scored again. Your field position battle was not a battle. You seemingly just wanted them to play. You wanted to play in half the field. You want to play on your side of the field. Defense, offense. Let's keep it 50 yards in. Let's do that. Starting field positions for the scoring drives for Washington State: the Texas Tech 40, Texas Tech 43, the Texas Tech 2, the Texas Tech 38, the Washington State 49.
Ooh, 51 yards.
Those 5 were all touchdowns. Their longest touchdown drive was 51 yards. Washington State 24, when they had to drive the length of the field, they couldn't and settled for a field goal. Of the 14 offensive possessions, Washington State started on the Texas Tech side of the field 6 times. 4 of those ended up in touchdowns. 5 of Washington State's 14 drives started around where they would, as you could assume, they would take the ball over had there been a touchback, 25, 20-yard line. They only figured out one scoring drive off of those 5 drives that had to go length of the field, and it was a field goal.
Well, it wasn't that late.
It was their last score.
Yeah. That was with they kicked that field goal with about 6 minutes left. And by then the defense was gassed and everything. So, yeah.
It was over.
It's
and you still they still couldn't get like couldn't punch it in from 75 yards. Defensively, we talked about dropping 7 and 8 into coverage. You took away the deep explosive passing plays. Never adjusted to the quarterback run. You did well defending running back runs outside of 2 busts, basically. Parker had 11 carries for 69 total yards with a long of 43, which means outside of that 1 43-yard touchdown, he was kept to 10 carries, 23 yards.
Wow. Yeah.
Schlenbaker, the other guy they were just loving on the broadcast, 11 carries, 27 yards with a long of 11. You take his long run, he had 10 carries for 16 yards. If you take out the one play, the 43 yards, you held their running backs to, on 21 carries, to 50 yards. Defensively against running back runs, you did okay. But because of the skill set of the quarterback and how you weren't adjusting to the running quarterback, the game went the way it did. You only had to defend 5 passes in the second half, which I thought was just hilarious.
Oh, that is crazy. Yeah,
I remember 5 passes.
I remember trying to keep up with, oh man, he hasn't thrown a pass in like 8 minutes of game time. And I think he went a whole drive without. Anyway, yes,
yeah,
it was. They realized they could capitalize on his legs and thought, why stop? Keep going.
I know coming into the game, we talked about the pass rush or lack thereof from week 1, and they talked about how quickly Mateer gets the ball out of his hands. On 19 pass attempts, you had 4 quarterback hurries. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
And a sack. Which is when they talked about it coming into the game, like at the pressure rate you were getting against ACU, you were expecting 1 sack every 90 plays. Washington State did not run 90 plays; you just got a sack. You gave up 416 yards. Talked about half of their drives only had to go half the field. So, yes, you did outgain them on the ground. You did outgain them offensively, yardage wise. They didn't have to go very far. Special teams, Garcia was 1-1 on field goals, 37 yards. Your punter punted just 3 times for an average of 43 yards. Respectable.
Yeah, shanked. If he hadn't shanked that first one, that number would have been
much
close to 50.
I know that punts suck, but it's kind of hard to say like you shouldn't punt when your current punter's pretty good. Your previous punter was really good. Analytics say to go for it all the time, but like maybe just maybe. We take into account like the flow of the game and not just like, well, the paper here says I should go for it. Well, what does your gut say as the coach that's seeing everything unfold, that's taking into account you're down 2 stars on your offensive line, your starting running back is gone. Like maybe the paper that was printed up in June should kind of be massaged a little bit
Well,
on the
I
field
found
on Saturday night.
yeah, I found that interesting too. That McGuire mentioned it, and I know we've already talked about this some, but there was one piece I wanted to point out that we hadn't. And Kittley, when asked about that, because McGuire had already mentioned, "Hey, we're going to look at this," Kittley said, "That's ultimately up to the head coach how we do that," which I thought was kind of. It seemed like he was deflecting a little bit. I kind of refuse to believe that McGuire is on the sideline saying, "Oh yeah, we're going for it, Kittley." I, I I don't know, but that's what it made it sound like. I also feel like if McGuire's first name was Atticus or something, we wouldn't want to call him Joey so much. Joey's just so likable, so easy to say.
Maybe.
Okay.
Also,
sorry, I just wanted to point that out. Yeah.
You weren't prepared. Like after getting the success you did on the kickoffs in week 1, you weren't prepared for a team that didn't want to have that happen to them.
Yeah, had no part of Dre McCray. Please no.
Yeah. Okay, back to analytics, and I realize like I've said it on this podcast before, and it makes no sense to pay all this money and to say like we're going to go by the analytics, we're going to go by the book. If you commit to that and then waffle and say no, I'm gonna do my own way. Like we made fun of Gundy for doing this.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you're either going to use it or you're not. It's like I get it. Like you're committed to this, but also now that we've seen just how bad it can be, like there's got to be some nuance there. You've got to have some flexibility to say, I'm not feeling it at this moment in time. All right. Going into the game, Michael and I both predicted losses 38. We both said Washington State would score 38. It's close. They scored 37. Texas Tech, though, were about 2 touchdowns off.
Yeah.
I said 31. You said 35.
Yeah. I thought the offense, I was really impressed with what the offense was able to do against Abilene Christian for the most part. Was not impressed with the defense, but had a feeling that they would play better and Washington State would come down to earth a little bit after putting up 70 against Portland State. Half of the prediction was true, but the offense did not travel.
Yeah. All right. Let's look ahead, Michael, to this weekend.
Okay, good.
48 minutes in. Here we go.
Let me check
Preview
my blood
time.
pressure after this.
Texas Tech. Oh my gosh. North Texas, Mean Green coming to town. They are the number 90 S&P Plus team. Texas Tech is 74th. They were 58th. Our good friends Texas State are 73rd. Just for some comparison's sake there.
Yeah.
Summer's coming back. High of 95 on Saturday, guys.
Yeah, fall is ending.
Is over. Yep, it's coming to an end. Eric Morris, head coach there for the Mean Green, in his second season now, 7-7. It's 2-0 this year, 5-7 last year. Former Tech Connections, their offensive coordinator Jordan Davis was a former wide receiver for you. Coming back to, he played here 2012, 2014. Was a GA under Morris and Kingsbury, then followed Morris to Incarnate Word, and then Washington State. Defensively, Clay Jennings, their safeties coach, was a DB coach here at Texas Tech. Not that long ago, but 2018. He's only 1 year here. And obviously Eric Morris played here, coached here, GA, all those things before he got his break to call plays, not under Cliff Kingsbury, because that just wasn't going to happen. Team rankings, Michael. Did you see this little tidbit?
I did.
After one home game, though. This is
it was a big slide. It was a big slide, and it was I got you.
Texas Tech is the 123rd best home team, while UNT is the 27th best road team. Consider that. Last year, like I said, they went 5-7. They won at Louisiana Tech, ACU, Temple, Tulsa, UAB. They lost versus Cal, Florida International, Navy, Tulane, Memphis, UTSA, and SMU. 5 of those 7 losses were one possession within one possession.
Yeah.
So far this year, they are 2-0, beating up on South Alabama on the road and Stephen F. Austin at home. 35-20 versus Stephen F. Austin. Glimmer of hope here. They are as heavily penalized as Texas Tech is. We're tied. 21 penalties apiece. Texas Tech, 21 penalties for 158 yards. UNT, 21 penalties for 172 yards. Offensively, 31st in S&P Plus. Going up against the number 90 defense, led by quarterback Chandler Morris Jr. from Highland Park, 6'1", 190, formerly at Oklahoma and TCU. So far this season, he's completing 68% of his passes, 737 yards in 2 games, 8.7 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. That 3 interceptions is a lot because they all came last week. Not a running threat, although they're preparing for it. Well, I say that. He hasn't run yet. 10 carries, 10 yards, 2 touchdowns.
So he threw 3 picks last week, and they still won by 15.
Yeah. He was 26 of 44, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 322 yards. On the ground, I'm going to say Demaja. I'm just going to say Harris. Running back Harris is a junior. 6'2", 224 is a big dude. 16, he's our leading carrier by far. 16 carries, 171 yards. Adds 10.7 yards per carry, long of 80, and 1 touchdown. Second guy on the list, Jawan Price, did see that he is out for the season with a broken leg. Sucks. Hate to see that. He had 14 carries and 64 yards. Next guy up, Ika Ragsdale, 22 carries, 58 yards, and a touchdown.
So even if you take that 80-yarder out from Harris, their leading carrier, that's still 6 yards per carry.
Yep.
Pretty salty.
Impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Through the air, Damon Ward is their leading receiver, 5'11", 204, senior, been at UNT his entire career, which is refreshing, I think. To me, it is. Last year, he's taken a step up this year. Last year, had 39 receptions for 487 yards, 12.5 yards per catch, 5 touchdowns, long of 59. So far this year, through 2 games, he's got a third of his catches, half of his yards, 150% of his yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. So he's got 13 receptions, 246 yards. That's almost 19 yards per catch and 2 touchdowns.
Whew.
Next up is a Washington State transfer, DT Sheffield, 5'10", 170. So both their top guys are smaller. Well, Ward probably won't feel as small, being he's got 205. Sheffield, though, 5'10", 170. He's going to be a little bit smaller. Only appeared in 2 games for the Cougars, 5 catches for 26 yards last year. This year, he's got 13 catches, 148 yards, 11.5 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns. And then their tight end is Oscar Hammond, 6'3", 236 junior from Central Oklahoma. He's a transfer end, 6 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. We talked about Tech and Lubbock connections on the coaching staff. On the roster, they are starting offensive lineman Landon Peterson, played 5 years here at Texas Tech, 35 games, 9 starts, and is starting for them. Now, right tackle Larry Moore, who was here for 3 seasons, did not see much playing time, none in 2022. All 12 games in 2023 for UNT, but mostly special teams. And then Lubbock native Blair Conwright, Coronado grad, transferring into UNT from TCU, is there catching passes. Offensively, as a team, UNT is throwing the ball for 384 yards per game. Texas Tech is allowing 311. Both units at 8.9 yards per attempt. UNT is rushing for 143 yards per game at 4.3 yards per carry. Texas Tech allowing 205 for 5.1 yards per catch, per carry. They are converting 42% of their third downs, 67% of their fourth downs, whereas Texas Tech is allowing 48% of third downs and 60% on fourth. Both units right around 44 points per game. I hate to see that.
Yeah, that matchup is tough.
Yeah. Defensively, they are bad. This is where you've got some
We got some hope here. Yes.
They are 131st in S&P Plus, coming against the number 43 offense. As a unit, they have 1 interception, 20 total quarterback hurries, 6 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. Mentioned earlier, their current defensive coordinator was a previous cornerbacks coach for Iowa State. So you'll see that 3-high cloud look. Get a dress rehearsal. Well, if you were to play Iowa State this year. But it's another 3-high defense. You saw that same kind of defense in week 1, and you saw what you did offensively get to 3-high defense. They are led in tackles by senior defensive back Jaden Hill, 6'1", 205, 17 tackles so far in the season, 8 solo. Next up, Jordan Brown. It's a big linebacker, 6'1", 240 with 15 tackles. Another defensive back, Evan Jackson. On the smaller side, 5'11", 175, 13 tackles, 11 solo. He's pretty well.
He's very, very active.
Pretty well adept at solo tackles. Question here, how well do they defend the screen? We'll see. They'll have plenty of opportunity to practice that. Jalen Smith, 12 tackles. And then big Roderick Brown, defensive lineman, has 4 tackles. Defensively, they are allowing 306 yards per game through the air. Texas Tech putting up 361. Both teams right at about 7 yards per attempt through the air. They allow 109 yards per game on the ground. Texas Tech is running for 155. Big difference here. Tech is running at 5.2 yards per carry. Mean Green are allowing 3.4 yards per carry. Texas Tech is converting 53% of their third downs, which feels really high, actually.
Yeah, it is. That's really good.
But only 25% of fourth downs, whereas...
It's kind of weird to have such a high third down percentage, but then have also gone for it on fourth down 8 times.
Yeah. Make it make sense, Michael.
Yeah, none of it makes sense. It's all bad. That's what it is. It's all bad.
Yeah. UNT is allowing teams to only convert 29% of their third downs and 33% of fourth downs. Texas Tech is scoring 35 points per game. UNT is allowing 29.
I just wanted to point out something. I think it was probably said right before you did, or at the same time. Don't be a puppet said, how well do they defend the screen? So I think a lot of people are thinking the same thing.
No, I read that.
Oh, you read that? Oh, my bad. Okay.
Yeah, I was reading that comment.
My bad. I missed that.
That was not a question from me.
Okay.
It's from our loyal
from the listeners. We really appreciate you guys
from the gallery
chiming in. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Makes it a lot more fun for us to kind of look up, and even if we don't address all of them, most of them make me smile or laugh in some way or form, and that is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. CFB Graphs really likes Texas Tech in this one. Giving Texas Tech a 93% win percentage. I don't agree. That feels awfully confident. I'm not there. Projected total here at 62 points and a margin of 19. So it's pretty big. 40-21.
Yeah.
I
would love it. I hate that it does, but I think it made my voice crack a little bit. I just feel so sad. But anyway, yeah, 40-21 or 41-20 or something. That sounds like a score I would probably have normally picked in a year. But this game, I mean, do you want to go first with your pick, or well, first I guess we should do this. Texas Tech is favored officially, or depending on where you get your lines. But when I checked it earlier today, Tech was favored at 9.5. Over under was 69.5. Tech started. I knew it. I knew you. I was trying.
I passed up one earlier. I passed it up earlier.
Oh man,
Sorry.
look at you showing such restraint. I knew you were in mid Dr. Pepper drink, so I thought maybe I could just roll past it, but nope. You came back.
I hurried that gulp down. I had to.
Just like an underthrown ball, you came back to it. Texas Tech started though. Okay, so they're a 9.5-point favorite now, but they started as a 13.5-point favorite, and the money obviously was like, okay, we'll take UNT at plus 13.5, and so the line moved 4 points, which is a pretty good little shift.
This is one of those games where like the pessimism, the jaded Spencer here says it's gonna be close.
Oh, are you gonna go whole hog?
Having things gone reverse of how they should have or could have, this one could be like 42-17 and like never in question. Like I wouldn't even like I don't even doubt that as a possibility. I don't believe that's how it's going to work. I won't let myself believe that you're going to have a comfortable win. But it's one of those things where like nothing has gone the way it was thought it was going to go this season. So like you could get the regression to the expectation. Is that a thing? Can you regress to an expectation?
Regression to the mean green,
especially with the movement as much as it went like in favor of North Texas. Now I get that like having seen Texas Tech perform in weeks 1 and 2, like 14 points was a lot. Okay. I said a lot of stuff. We haven't given a prediction. I think offensively, you get more of week 1 Texas Tech than week 2. So give me Texas Tech 42, UNT not to cover 31.
Oh man, okay, that's really close to mine. Let me see. Maybe I should adjust mine a little bit so that we're not. No, I'm gonna stick with it. So you're a little bit more optimistic than me, not by much, but I'm looking at it the same way. Texas Tech will be back home. It'll probably be not quite as distracting of an atmosphere as it was in Game 1, which apparently
be morning. My son will be there.
Oh, that's great.
Which we'll talk about a little bit. I will not.
Much like the smoke and the lights in Pure Country was just too much for some of these guys. So they don't have to worry about that at 11 a.m. I think that's a plus. I think another plus is that this defense looks defeatable. I think that's going to help this offense quite a bit. Something I'm very worried about, and I did not take into account like I should have against Abilene Christian. Damon Ward Jr. scares me a little bit on the wide receiver side of the ball. 13 receptions, 246 yards, almost 19 yards per catch. I know you said all that earlier, but I feel like it's worth repeating because Abilene Christian, and I'm already losing his name. Was it Taylor?
Yep.
His stats were fantastic in 2023, but still I thought, we're Texas Tech. It'll be all right. It wasn't all right. I think he had almost 200 yards on you. So that worries me. I do think the offense will be able to score again though, but basically just to kind of take a little bit toned down version of your pick, I'm not picking Tech to cover. I'm picking Tech to win. But I've got them winning 41-35, and you had Tech winning 42-31. I wanted to get some more. I know. I wanted to get some more scores from the folks in the comments, but I've only got one so far.
Yeah, don't be a puppet. Has UNT covering, but Texas Tech winning 31-28.
Yes.
That's more where I was kind of in line. Like the more I thought about it as you were talking through yours, like 42 points is a
lot. I know it is, but man, they scored 52 the first week.
Well, it took overtime.
Well, sure. I did notice.
But there were
Let's
long
see.
stretches when you weren't really moving the ball that well.
So I
I don't
took the
know.
over. I took the over. We both did.
Oh, by a lot.
Yeah, we both took the
12.
over. Don't Be a Puppet definitely has the under on the total there. But it's
I'm going to adjust.
I think it's going to be a close one. I mean, it just the way things have gone, Spencer, this might be um maybe UNT scores late and Tech has to hold them, or it could be kind of an SFA situation where they're driving at the end and they're unable to. Was that a fourth down attempt that they weren't able to get, or my my memory's not that great on SFA, but it could still be a game like that. Just because I have Tech winning by a touchdown or 6 points, it doesn't mean that it's Tech was up 41-21 and then they allowed a couple of late garbage time ones. I don't think that's the case. I think it may just be kind of close in the fourth quarter. Depends on what offense shows up and depends on how well that defense is able to slow down this passing game.
Yeah. Is Morton healthy? Is Brooks back? How's the line going to work?
How is the line going to work? Are they going to be able to not freaking all jump at the same damn time when
That's fine if they do that. Just also snap the ball with it. That's how it works, right?
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So I did adjust and I came down. I'm going locking it in 34-30.
34-30. Okay, that is a big adjustment. All right. I'm sticking with mine. I'm sticking with 41-35.
So that brings us to the under. If we're going with the 69.5 the over under, that brings us under at 64 and a UNT cover.
And yeah, you really changed yours. You took the over and you took UNT points with the points. Man. Yeah,
so all right.
Okay.
Let's look around the Big 12 real quick. Thursday night, Arizona State coming to the great state. May as well just stay here. I mean, except it's a week and a half. They're coming to San Marcos, taking on Texas State Bobcats at 6:30 on Thursday night on ESPN. Sun Devils are 1.5 favorites on the road. Got 2 Friday night games. UNLV at Kansas. Kansas somehow lost this weekend against Illinois. Sucks to suck, I guess.
It does.
I didn't think that was going to happen, but
okay.
I couldn't care less. I mean, it's Kansas. Kansas is a touchdown favorite. 6 p.m. ESPN on Friday the 13th. And Arizona at Kansas State non-conference matchup. Kansas State is a touchdown and a half. 7.5 points. 7 p.m. on Fox Friday night. Saturday, you've got Oklahoma State at Tulsa's a 3 touchdown favorite. 11 a.m. ESPN2. Cincinnati's a field goal favorite at Miami of Ohio. That's kind of eye raise there. 11 a.m. ESPNU. Backyard brawl, West Virginia at Pitt. Mountaineers, 2.5 point favorites. 2:30 on ESPN2. Utah on the road, 20.5 points at Utah State. 3:30 on the CBS Sports Network. I assume Rising is going to be back. I think he just cut his hand on that tackle on the sideline, and they just held him out. If anything's more serious, like they could be in trouble because the offense after he went out, non-existent. Baylor was able to stop it. Baylor couldn't move the ball themselves, but they stopped the Utah offense without Rising on the field. UCF at TCU at the first conference matchup.
Yeah, that's I had to check because I thought, that may be one of those weird non-con ones, but TCU is going to SMU next week. So I think this is actually the first Big 12 matchup of the season.
TCU is a 1-point favorite at home, 6:30 p.m. on Fox. Air Force at Baylor. Colorado at Colorado State. Colorado's favored there, 6:30 CBS. Rice at Houston. Crosstown matchup. Houston's favored there by 4. 7 p.m. ESPN Plus. BYU 10.5-point favorites on the road at Wyoming. 8 p.m. CBS Sports Network. Not the same Wyoming team apparently.
No.
And of any other Big 12 team that may be ready for elevation, it's going to be BYU.
Yeah,
I guess Utah too now, but Iowa State not playing this week.
Yes, the sole team on a bye. I did want to go back and say Steven did put in a score. Not an official score, but he's kind of down, man. He said that we will lose by 1.
I could see that, but
I mean, it almost happened already. It almost happened in the first game.
No name that says hopefully UNT flies in. Can't risk another bus wreck.
I'm just glad that that
happened post game.
It was post game. It was not a Tech student. It was supposedly not someone who was at the Tech game even.
Did sound like Keith
that was a bad deal.
Almost said Patrick again. Patterson did have to spend an extra day receiving treatment at the hospital, which is not good.
Oh man, no, I didn't. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I think I heard that he spent the night over there at the county hospital.
Jeez.
So, I mean, had he gone to the better of the hospitals, he would have gone home with the team. But just saying. I mean, if you would get worked on by students, go to the county hospital.
I like how you call it the county hospital.
Your tax dollars subsidize that place. I mean, let me tell you, it's a sham. That's not a sham. I'm sure they're great people there. They do great things. I mean, we couldn't take care of all of Lubbock just by ourselves. We need somebody to take the load off of us too. All right. Anything else? Big 12 wrap whip around. Wow, that was about to be bad.
I mean, no, the main thing I've already mentioned, which was just, I really hope I get to just sit down and watch Arizona State and Texas State play, because that's Texas Tech's next opponent, and 2, that just seems like it's just a really intriguing matchup. And Texas State is, they're a team to watch. So I would not. I'm glad that Texas Tech has not signed up to play in San Marcos yet. Again, they did many years ago, but
next Texas Tech head coach,
if he wants it. If there's not is there a greener pasture opening somewhere?
Baylor.
Yeah.
If you want to go,
that might be it. That might be the next true opening. I feel like if things really went south this year, McGuire would still be here, but he would be coaching with a lot of different people.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're going to take their head coach to be your offensive coordinator.
Could do
so I think it's more likely you may be replacing a coordinator. Hopefully not 2, because I like to
pull a what was that, Chip Kelly?
But he stepped down up. All right, let's wrap this up with what do we learn? What do you say?
What do we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
So I nearly hit the outro button. That would have not been a good start.
Well, I talked over that, so it's been great.
All right, let's do it again.
A+ by me. Okay. Yeah, do it again.
I mentioned earlier, my son is going to be at the game through a class program at school, the Amend Project, I believe it's called. He is going to the game with students there at Cooper East. I think is awesome. I went to a few college football games, but I was in middle school when that started, and it was with FFA? FCA?
Future Farmers of America?
Not FFA. FCA.
Okay.
Fellowship of Christian Athletes. That's what it was.
Okay.
We went to some SMU games. SMU was terrible.
Yes, they would have been.
Yeah, this was like, middle school for me would have been 2002, 2003, 2001, 2002. Yeah, I was in middle school when September 11th happened. That was 7th grade. So yeah, fall of 2001 or fall of 2002. I think they hosted like San Diego State or something and got waxed at home in front of like 55 kids, and I was in that group.
But you still remember it to this day.
I do.
So
I do.
I
It's
think
a
that's
great
what
experience.
you're getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna go have a blast.
It's gonna be great.
We thought about going. We're actually gonna go next week. We're gonna go to the Arizona State game. Our organization is having like our fall family activity or event. It used to be like we would rent out the whole corn maze and do dinner and just everybody out there for family and friends of employees that work for our fine organization. This year they're throwing a tailgate and then greatly reduced tickets. We're going to go partake in that action next weekend against Arizona State. But Grayson, my oldest son, is going this weekend against North Texas. So,
well, I've got both good and bad news. So, my daughter's soccer games are, I mean, they are directly interfering with the next two game times. So this Saturday, it's a 12 o'clock soccer game after an 11 a.m. kickoff, and then next Saturday, I think it's a 1:30 soccer game, and then the Tech game starts at 2:30. But let me tell you this, I don't mind it at all. One, because sometimes it's better for me to not just sit there and absorb this football game for 4 hours. But two, she started 7-on-7 soccer this year. She's been playing 4-on-4 this whole time on small field, small goals, not kind of positionless. They would like leave one person back.
right.
I don't know enough about soccer to comment about this, which, by the way, Texas Tech soccer Thursday night starts Big 12 play at TCU. Get ready. They demolished Oregon last week. They're 5-2. The girls are rolling. All right, so let's keep it going. So 7-on-7 soccer, bigger field, bigger goals, an actual goalie at each end. My daughter's playing defense. The girls are actually playing positions and they're actually understand the positions. It's phenomenal to watch. It's really enjoyable to watch. So I'm genuinely looking forward to this season of watching this, and I'm just so proud of how much they've been able to learn and to adjust to such a larger field. I mean, they were getting winded, they were getting tired, but they were still playing hard and they were still wanting to get out there, and it's just going to be a great season. So yeah, it's going to interfere with the Tech games, but I'm really not that worried about it. It was a lot of fun on this last Saturday. The other thing I wanted to mention, this week we did a at school they had in her class like a family reunion, which was a really cool concept that they did for all the first graders. So in order to do that family reunion, people sent in recipes and they had kind of like a potluck at the end where people, parents sent the food of the recipes, and we didn't really do that because I didn't really understand that was the thing. But anyway, the recipe I sent, I thought you'd get a kick out of this. We couldn't. Our goal was to try to come up with a recipe that the three of us liked pretty much equally.
Okay.
It was my pulled pork, Spencer.
Nice.
I was so proud. That was, and so I wrote it down, and it's in a cookbook now alongside not one but two different methods to make tortillas. Some really good stuff in there, like some good pasta salads, some enchilada casseroles. Some desserts. I'm just blanking, like some cake cookies. Allison and I were both looking at that thinking, oh, we really legit might need to make some of this stuff. So someone might be out there with my award-winning pulled pork recipe that I swear by it. Pretty much learned at a barbecue class like 10 years ago. And I did write that in there. I'm like, where did this recipe come from? And so I wrote it in my daughter's voice, like, my dad learned it before I was born.
Nice.
At a barbecue class.
Hey, you said cake cookies, and that reminded me. We tried to make some sugar cookies this week, and I don't know why I thought this was going to be accurate. It is, but we have one of those like reusable United shopping bags.
Yes.
And on the side of it is a printed recipe for an old-fashioned sugar cookie. And halfway through making it, I was like, I don't even know if this recipe's real. I followed it. I made it. It was like not a sugar cookie like you would ever. It's probably not even real. But what it ended up being was a very cakey cookie. Wasn't very sweet. Texture was off. I was like, this is terrible. So, learned
it was
that.
an AI recipe, probably
from
the
there was some
paper bag manufacturer.
Questionable, like the way it was worded. It was like it was translated from Chinese to English. Oh, there goes my ring. So I'm throwing that on the ground. So it's like questions abound, but I still made it. Also, I looked at the SMU schedule. It was 2002. They hosted San Jose State Saturday, October 5th.
You nailed it. You said San Jose State.
Didn't lose as bad as I thought they did. 34-23.
It was 22 years ago. How did you remember who they played? Growing up around Abilene, our big ticket items were either Hardin-Simmons, Abilene Christian, or McMurray. So those are the games I went to here and there. But yeah, I can't believe you remember that. But we did go to a couple of those.
Yep.
I've got to get. My little one hasn't been to a Tech game yet, so got to
get
her
opportunities.
Yes,
she's still young. You can work it. All right, that'll do it for us in the 23 Personnel Podcast. Each week may be our last. Who knows? I don't know how much more I can take of this. Got UNT Mean Green coming in this weekend. Texas Tech predicted to win. Michael and I both taking the Redbirds to pull this one out. But we'll be back on Saturday night for Instant Reaction. For Michael, Spencer, catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at PuntSuck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.